Think you've had a bad date? These real stories go way beyond awkward small talk. From charming strangers who vanish without a trace, to encounters that nearly turn deadly, these 3 horrifying dating app stories will make you rethink swiping right. Inspired by true events. So let's sit back, grip our seats, and enjoy. So hey everyone, I've been following this sub for a couple of years now, but it's finally time I share my own story, thanks to the thrilling world of online dating. I use Bumble pretty often, and usually, it's a pretty chill experience. Meeting new people, having some drinks, and just seeing where things go. So I matched with this guy named Luke. He's good looking, into photography, and had a cool vibe. We chat for a bit, and I'm feeling pretty good about meeting up. So I agree to head over to his place. Mistake number 1. Why did I think it was a good idea to meet someone I don't know at their house? I don't have a car, so I take an Uber to his apartment. It's kind of far, so the ride ends up being a little pricey. As soon as he buzzes me into the building, I get this weird feeling. But I chalk it up to nerves. I go up to the 3rd floor and he's waiting at the door. Everything seems fine at first. Just hanging out, chatting, smoking a little. We watch a movie and then he tries to make a move. We end up on the bed. And we're about to get intimate when, out of nowhere, he grabs me by the throat. Now, I'm not opposed to some light choking in the right circumstances, but being in a stranger's house and him not even asking beforehand? Not the time. I can barely breathe at this point and I'm starting to panic. His grip is tightening and he's yelling, "Are you scared?" With this crazy look in his eyes. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm pretty sure I'm going to pass out at any second. I'm struggling and fighting as hard as I can, but he doesn't let go. Honestly, I thought I was going to die right then and there. But somehow, by pure luck, I managed to wiggle free. I start screaming and scrambling to get dressed as fast as possible. He's yelling at me to calm down, but I can't think straight. I just need to get out of there. As I try to leave, he grabs my wrist, trying to stop me. But I use all of my strength to break free and slam the door behind me. Just before it closes, I hear him mutter, "Fucking bitch." I get home and look in the mirror. I've got bruises all over my neck. I try to cover them with makeup, but it's clear I look like I almost got choked to death. Then he sends me a text saying, "You probably need more than one guy." Really? You're suggesting a friend now? How lovely. I immediately blocked him and reported him on Bumble. Part of me wishes I could have done more, because I honestly feel like I came close to dying. I've been debating whether or not to go to the police, but the bruises are gone and it's basically a he said, she said situation. Still, I'm starting to wonder if I should do something about it, because who knows if the next person won't be so lucky. Do not recommend near-death experiences on dating apps. Luke, let's never meet again. It took me a long time to write this. Years, actually. Not because I forgot, but because remembering hurts. But I'm telling it now, not for sympathy, not even for closure. I'm telling it so that maybe someone else doesn't make the same mistake that I did. In 2018, my marriage was already on its last legs. My husband and I had been in an open, polyamorous relationship for a few years by then, and I was emotionally exhausted. That's when I met someone online, a man named Marcus, 42 years old to my 28, through a dating site. He was charming, magnetic even. Within weeks of chatting, we met up at a restaurant near my home. He was funny, attentive, and effortlessly kind. By the end of that night, I had invited him to meet my husband. It went smoothly. Marcus and I started dating soon after. At first, he was everything I thought I needed. He listened, really listened. He told me I was remarkable, strong, rare. He brought me flowers for no reason and made grand romantic gestures. that seemed ripped from a movie. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't experienced before. It felt like fate. That illusion didn't last. Only weeks in, Marcus confessed he couldn't handle the poly lifestyle. He said it hurt him too much, that he was already falling for me, so he ended it. I was heartbroken, but I respected his boundary. I let him go. A week later, he showed up again. Flowers at my job, a card, a plea. Let's try again. I'll regret it forever if we don't. I let him back in, and for a little while, things went back to the way they were. The laughter, the passion, the late-night talks where he'd hold my hand and whisper that he couldn't believe he'd found me. By the fall, my marriage had ended, and by October, my now ex had moved out. Rent was too high to manage alone, and with no one else to turn to, Marcus offered to move in. I hesitated. We'd only been together a few months, but he'd been so kind, so dependable. So I said yes. That's when everything changed. The man I thought I knew disappeared almost overnight. Marcus became possessive and cold. He picked fights over nothing. If I made plans with friends, he guilted me. If I invited him along, he sulked the whole time. He wanted me isolated, his and his alone. The Christmas party was the first public sign of something darker. He didn't want to go, made that clear for weeks, but insisted on attending at the last minute. At the event, surrounded by my coworkers, he muttered insults under his breath, sneered at decorations, and generally acted like he was enduring torture. When my manager, someone who had seen me through the wreckage of my marriage, smiled warmly and told him how happy she was for me, how much he had transformed me, Marcus turned cold. His response, "You don't fucking know me." My blood ran cold. Later that night, I confronted him outside. He gave a half-hearted apology, and we went back inside, but the pit in my stomach only grew. That drive home was silent, except for the storm inside me. Something was very wrong. From there, it was a steady descent. He began dismissing my opinions, mocking my age, telling me I didn't understand the world the way he did. My thoughts didn't matter. My stories didn't matter. My job didn't matter. And soon, I didn't either. He stopped hiding his contempt, brought up old girlfriends, how pretty they were, how I never would have stood a chance with him back then, told me I'd catfished him, that I was lucky he lowered his standards. When I gained weight, he ridiculed me. When I tried to talk about my grief, after a close friend from art school tragically died, he shrugged. "That's what you get for playing with psychedelics," he muttered. When my car broke down one day, a kind couple stopped to help. The man gave me his card and offered advice. Marcus showed up soon after, ignored the couple and barked, "I said she's fine," before storming off. The woman shrank back in the car, eyes wide. The man didn't say much, just leaned in and said softly, "If you need help, call." I still think about them. I think they knew. I tried to leave. One night, after he berated me for not answering my phone at work, I told him to get out. He refused, claimed I was destroying his life, that I had tricked him into love. My boss followed me home that night just in case. He dropped to his knees in the living room crying, clinging to my legs, begging me not to do this. My boss watched it all. I left, stayed with her for a few days. And then, like a fool, I let him back in. He apologized endlessly, sent long messages dissecting his behavior, promising change, swearing he'd go to therapy. And for a moment, I believed him. It was worse the second time. The guilt tripping started, the gaslighting. If I hadn't left, he wouldn't have had to work so hard to earn respect. If I had just been more stable, we'd be fine. I began to question myself. One night we argued. I don't even remember why. I tried to go to bed. He stayed in the living room and turned the TV up. Louder, louder, until the walls shook. I begged him to stop. He laughed. A sick, manic laugh. Wah, poor baby is crying again. That's your move, isn't it? Then he followed me to the bedroom and punched the door, inches from my face. His eyes were dead. I froze. I crumpled to the floor. He didn't stop. Mocked me while I had a panic attack. Told me he'd post my social security number online if I ever left him. That was it. I snapped. I screamed at him to get out. My voice wasn't mine anymore. It was something feral, animal. I don't remember all of what I said, only that I made him leave. I contacted my landlord and explained what had been going on. Marcus would also end up contacting her, spinning his own story, that I was moving out and had agreed to transfer the lease into his name. Thankfully, I was already several steps ahead of him. My landlord didn't fall for it and called me immediately. She personally came to change the locks, gave me the direct number of a nearby police officer in case Marcus showed up again, and even cut my rent in half for the next month. I'll always be grateful to her for those small but powerful acts of kindness. She went far beyond what any landlord is expected to do. It took weeks before Marcus stopped messaging me. I didn't block him, not because I wanted to keep the door open, but because I was terrified that cutting off all contact would push him into showing up in person. I figured I'd rather get daily apology videos than see him on my porch. And so the messages kept coming. The same act he'd pulled before. Love bombing, hollow promises, desperate attempts to find a crack in the wall I'd put up. But I stayed silent, and eventually he stopped. His final message was dramatic, of course. "I'll always love you," he said. I left it on read. The illusion had been shattered. It took me years to rebuild myself. If my divorce didn't break me, this experience nearly finished the job. I lost trust in myself. I still don't know what his endgame was, and I'm not sure I ever will. In one of our last conversations, I remember breaking down and asking him, what happened to the guy I fell in love with? Marcus looked me straight in the eyes, smirked, and said, "That guy doesn't exist. I told you what I had to tell you to get you away from that fucking asshole husband of yours. You're just stupid. You fell for it. Marcus, let's not meet ever again." About 5 years ago, I was 23, freshly out of my first serious relationship, and still trying to navigate the emotional wreckage of my first love. I had spent a year in a haze, making some questionable decisions along the way, before finally deciding to give dating another shot. I signed up for a dating website, hoping to meet someone who could distract me from the past. That's when I met Rick. He was a few years older than me, ex-Marine and charming as hell. After a few days of messaging, we exchanged numbers and decided to meet up. I drove to his place where things took a turn. Rick shared his home with a few other guys who looked sketchy. The neighborhood was decent, but there was something about his roommates and the state of the house that immediately set off red flags. But feeling naive and still wanting to move forward, I stuck around. Rick greeted me with a hug and handed me a helmet. He was taking me for a ride on his motorcycle. I had never ridden before, but I'd always wanted to try. So I threw caution to the wind and agreed. He took me down a long, isolated road that I later realized was known for its seclusion. It was springtime, about 5 p.m., and as we rode, the quiet and emptiness of the road started to make my anxiety rise. It hit me. I don't know this guy, and this situation is starting to feel wrong. I asked him to turn around, claiming my parents were expecting me for dinner. He laughed it off and tried to brush me off as scared, but after much insistence, he finally agreed. We turned back, but the sense of dread stayed with me. The next day, I convinced myself that I was overreacting. I gave him another chance and agreed to a second date at a sports bar. But the date only confirmed my suspicions. Rick was possessive and clingy, constantly talking about how protective he would be, thanks to his Marine training. By the end of the night, I knew I had to end things for good. But my car was still at his place. Against my better judgment, I went inside for just 5 minutes. The moment we walked in, he pounced on me trying to get physical. I kept pushing him away, telling him I needed to leave, but he wasn't having it. He made it clear he wouldn't let me leave until we did something. At that moment, I realized my only way was to give in, so I did, pretending to enjoy it while dying inside. The second it was over, I bolted out of there. From then on, he tried to contact me relentlessly, calling, texting, and begging me to see him again. When I ignored him, he called me names and then apologized, claiming it was because he liked me so much. I blocked him everywhere: phone, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat. Rick, let's not ever meet again.